Roki struck out 10. Yamamoto retired 22 straight. Meanwhile, Sheehan couldn't get through the second inning. All three games against the Angels told us something important about this team.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Harry Ruiz, that's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers. On today's show, Jeff Passan brought up a reliever who could make a lot of sense for the Dodgers as the trade deadline gets closer. We have some important injury updates involving Will Smith, Tyler Glasnow, and Blake Snell. But first, Travis, Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki had dominant outings, but Emmet Sheehan's performance reminded everyone that not every young arm is moving at the same pace.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not going to win all the games. The Dodgers win most of the games, but a little rough one on Sunday afternoon. We'll get into it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, which is brought to you by FanDuel, the biggest stage in the world. In soccer, it's right here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started right now.
3 starters, 3 stories, one big weekend for the Dodgers. If there's one takeaway from the series against the Angels, is that the Dodgers got 3 completely different pitching stories over those 3 days. Friday, Roki Sasaki looked like the pitcher the Dodgers thought they were getting. Saturday, Yoshinobu Yamamoto looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball. And on Sunday, Emmet Sheehan reminded everyone how difficult it is to establish yourself as a major league starter. And let's start in chronological order. Roki Sasaki. I honestly think Friday was the biggest development of the weekend, not because it was the best performance, we'll get into Yama in a minute, but because of what it means moving forward. 7 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts, just 2 hits allowed, and maybe most importantly, he looked comfortable, confident, in control. And Travis, if there's a guy that expresses everything with the way that he looks, it's Roki Sasaki, because for much of last year, the conversation around him has been about what wasn't happening. The command wasn't there. The consistency wasn't there. The confidence wasn't always there. And the results certainly weren't there. And now for the last month, 3 weeks, it has been a completely different story.
Yeah, he's looked really, really good. And the night, Friday night, when he pitched his team deep into the ball game without giving up any runs and was hanging tough. I think that's what's really, important here, that we've all known that the stuff is really good. We've all known that when he lands the correct pitches, he's very, very hard to hit. That's why the Dodgers and just about everybody else in baseball was so gung-ho to get a chance to sign him in the first place. He just had zero command. And like you said, Harry, a second ago, he had zero confidence. He just was completely tentative up on the mound. And right now you're starting to see him attack the strike zone. Just strike. And it makes such a difference. You saw it. I thought Robert said something really interesting when they sent him back out there for the 7th inning on Friday night in a scoreless tie. I don't want to say there's a lot of pressure because it's the middle of June. It's the Angels. But for Roki Sasaki, there was some real pressure. That was some uncharted waters. So seeing him go out there, seeing him strike out a couple of guys in the 7th inning, see him pitch the way that he did with the amount of confidence that he did, I think is really important. It does feel like he's turned the corner a little bit. Here's the only thing I'll say, Harry, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on it, even though maybe this is. 2 of these really good 4 starts have been against the worst team in baseball. 2 of these 4 starts have been against the Angels. And look, we saw it yesterday with Sheehan. I know we're going to get to that in a second. It's not like there can't be damage done occasionally, but this is a very good – this is kind of why I was suggesting that the minor leagues might be a good place for Roki Sasaki, because just getting confidence helps, right? Confidence leads to success. Success leads to confidence. And the Angels are as close to a AAA team as you're going to see in the major leagues. And he's starting to feel better. And you see him pitch against Milwaukee. You see him pitch against Philadelphia. Those are much better teams than the Angels. And the graph is starting to climb up a little bit. So I'm really happy for Roki. He looks like he's starting to feel like the guy we were hoping he was going to be. And he's trending in the right direction for sure. It's a big, big night for him.
Yeah, 2 of those starts were against the Angels, but also 2 of them were against teams that are going to be contending for a spot in the postseason in Milwaukee and Philadelphia. But you add those 4 starts, you combine them, 24 and a third innings, 13 hits, 5 runs, 4 of them earned, 5 walks, 29 strikeouts. That's almost a 6-to-1 ratio when it comes to strikeouts to walks. I remember early in the season in April, we were talking about that 5-walk game against the Rangers being the point where it's like, man, is this enough for Roki Sasaki? Should he go down to AAA? What's going to happen when all the injured pitchers come back? And most importantly, Blake Snell, and everything ended up working out for him to still be in this rotation. And right now having his best stretch since becoming a major leaguer. Heck, Dave Roberts even went on to say that what he saw from him in the last couple of starts, it just reminds him of Japan, about the pitcher that they were scouting, about the pitcher that they were looking for him, not just being a one-start flash, but now getting a little bit more consistency out of him. And Travis, you as a former pitcher, when you start seeing a splitter be just more consistent and being an extra weapon for him, that just is a game changer. That's something that has elevated him to the next level, instead of just being a one-trick pony to now being, he has different ways to get you out. And especially when he trusts his stuff, man, he's becoming something that other teams can just be like unbeatable.
That's it to me. Look, repetition is going to make a ton of difference, and grip and technique and mechanics, and work with Mark Pryor and the rest of the guys involved in the Dodgers coaching staff is certainly going to make a big difference. But Harry, the thing that makes the most difference, that Roki Sasaki was blessed with this incredible talent. And you can tinker with your mechanics all you want, and you can bend your back leg more or less, and you can get more on top of the ball, on the side of the ball, or whatever it is mechanically. That's all fine and good. That stuff makes a difference. But if you believe in what you're doing up there, if you have confidence in what you're doing, if you expect to get the guy out as opposed to hoping to get the guy out, it makes all the difference in the world. And it feels like Sasaki has made that transition from hoping he gets a guy out and trying to avoid loud contact, trying to nibble on the edges, trying to get guys to swing at balls off the plate, as opposed to attacking the strike zone, filling up the strike zone. If you hit it, I don't care. Here comes another one and another one and another one inside the strike zone. That's everything. He's in the zone. He's aggressive. He's confident, and you can see it and for better or for worse, and we've seen both the good and the bad, you know how Sasaki's doing by just looking at him, right? Like, you look at Yamamoto and Ohtani and Blake Snell and those guys, you have no idea. They might have given up 2 home runs in a row. They might strike out, 6, 7 guys in a row. You just have no idea by looking at him. You can tell by looking at Roki, and right now he looks incredibly confident. Good for him. Hopefully he continues to build on it a little bit, but to me, it's all confidence. It is all the knowledge of going out there and expecting to get major leaguers out, as opposed to, gosh, I hope I get some of these guys out. And there's a mile difference between those two things.
And while Friday may have been the most encouraging story, Saturday featured the best pitcher, because Yoshinobu Yamamoto was outstanding again. The Angels, yes, they scored in the first inning. Then they basically stopped existing offensively. Yamamoto retired 22 consecutive hitters for Anaheim. 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, no walks. And what impressed me the most, Travis, wasn't the line. It was just the adjustment, because he didn't have a perfect first inning. He gave up the run. He had to work through some traffic, and then he completely locked in. And that seems to be his thing this year. First inning, a little bit iffy, but then after that, boom, he just takes over the game and makes it impossible for other teams to find a way to get to him.
Yeah, I don't know what that little, hiccup he has in the first inning occasionally is. I'm sure it drives him crazy, like, it drives us crazy. But it seems like if you don't get to him right out of the chute, you're not going to get to him at all. And it does that performance. And again, not to take a swipe at the Angels, but it matters to what we're talking about. The Angels are so incredibly bad that you have to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. But Yamamoto looked like the guy that we saw last year. Yamamoto looked like the guy we've really seen the 2 years he's been here in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. That I know Skenes is amazing, and I know Mizorowski's amazing. I know Christopher Sanchez is, finally give up a run for the first time in a couple of months. And we know Ohtani is as good as there is. But I'm not so sure that if you had one game to go win, one game, and you said this guy's going to pitch, 7, 8, maybe even 9 innings of the whole game, that Yoshinobu Yamamoto isn't the first name off the board. He's that tough. He can go that deep into the games. He's that competitive. And like we were talking about a second ago, Sasaki, he's just relentless on the mound. He's just a flatliner, just a killer, just out there, just absolutely dominating people. He's one of the great pitchers in baseball, and you got a good chance to see it on Saturday night. And getting 9 runs in the bottom of the first certainly helped too.
Heck, the Dodgers had one game, Game 7, and they used them to close that game and be able to win that game with no day's rest. That shows you the type of confidence that they have on Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And while Roki and Yamamoto gave the Dodgers exactly what they needed, by the way, on Friday, they needed all of that great pitching from Roki because they won 1-0 walk-off home run from Freddie Freeman. And then on Saturday, how about that? Yamamoto getting 9 runs of support from his lineup. Sunday, completely different story. And Sheehan, he couldn't even get through the second inning. And look, I'm not burying the kid after one outing, but the issues we saw on Sunday are same issues that we continue showing up. We see continue showing up from him. Efficiency, finishing hitters, getting out of innings. And I mean, that 14-pitch battle with Nick Madrigal just completely changed the game for him.
It absolutely did. The game changed. You know, it's really rare where one hitter, especially a hitter in the second inning of a game, the game just goes in a totally different direction. Madrigal's 14-pitch at bat, he kept fouling pitches off. There were a couple of challenges in there. It just felt like that was going to be the game for Emmet Sheehan, not necessarily for the Dodgers, but you could tell, you know, that's almost in a full innings worth of pitches. That just completely changed the dynamic. He started to run out of gas. They got a little unlucky after that. Kyle Tucker probably should have caught a ball. Like there was some stuff going on out there that wasn't necessarily Sheehan's fault, but he did not pitch well. He's a work in progress, much like Sasaki is. You know, there are the difference between a really good major leaguer and a major leaguer is the ability to be consistent week in, week out, day in, day out, start in, start out. Emmet Sheehan's still struggling with that. Some of them are terrific. Some of them are like what we saw yesterday, where he's just not able to kind of close the show. I thought maybe they were a little quick to go get him, but I certainly understand why with the off day coming up, and they want to get some guys some work along the way, but not Emmet Sheehan's best day to be sure. But if he's the weak link in the chain, that's still a pretty strong chain.
That was literally what I was thinking. Opposing teams of the Dodgers, when they see that they're going against Emmet Sheehan or Eric Lauer, they're going to feel that that's their best chance at beating LA, because then you look at the rest of the starters, you don't want to go against Roki Sasaki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, or Shohei Ohtani, the 3-headed monster from Japan. When it comes to pitching, it's like, no, thank you. Give me a shot at somebody else. Heck, even Justin Robleski has been incredible in this 2026 campaign. So when you're talking about this type of rotation without Blake Snell, without Tyler Glasnow, man, can you imagine when they return, if they're able to stay on board? So we want to hear from you. What's the bigger story for you right now? Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitching like a Cy Young candidate, or Roki Sasaki finally looking like the pitcher the Dodgers thought they signed? Drop your take in the comments, or let us know on any of our social networks, or hit up the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 2793-LOCKED. We want to hear where you stand. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, we've got updates on Will Smith, Tyler Glasnow, and Blake Snell. Plus, one of those timelines just got a lot more interesting.
The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game. It can shift momentum and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. And right now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. And right now, look, I'm looking at Sweden right now. I know it's a super long shot, but I got them in one of my pools. So go on the FanDuel site for yourself and take a look at what you want to do, because you get the benefit from each goal scored. Right now, each goal scored can help you out. So from the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started right now. ED is way more common than most guys think. Millions of guys deal with it at some point. And that's exactly why HIMS offers a straightforward way to handle it. HIMS connects you with a licensed healthcare provider online, giving you access to legitimate ED treatment options from the comfort of your home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process that makes it easier to take care of yourself. The whole process, very, very simple. You just complete a quick online intake, and a provider is going to review your information. If treatment is right for you, it ships directly to your door in discreet packaging, which makes the whole experience feel private and stress-free. They also offer options like sildenafil, which is the generic for Viagra, at a fraction of the cost, plus other treatments so you can find what works best for you. It's a straightforward, transparent, and it's designed to make getting care feel easy. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonmlb. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb.
You can get every episode of Locked On Dodgers ad-free through the Everydayer Club. There's a free day, 7-day free trial waiting for you at lockedondodgers.supercast.com or through the link in the show notes. Will Smith, day-to-day. Tyler Glasnow delayed, and Blake Snell moving forward. Let's start with the least concerning update, we think. Will Smith, because anytime your best catcher gets scratched right before first pitch, people naturally get nervous. Fortunately, this doesn't sound like anything serious. Dave Roberts described it as a neck issue that appeared suddenly, and hopefully it was just a bad night's sleep, a bad pillow, but whatever the cause, the Dodgers don't seem worried about it becoming a long-term problem. And honestly, this might have ended up being beneficial for another reason, because it gave Dalton Rushing a couple of games behind the plate where he did pretty good for LA on Saturday and Sunday. But Travis, Will Smith, originally it was just going to be Saturday and then Sunday too. You look at things how they are today. Monday is a day off, so he gets 3 consecutive days to be able to relax that neck.
Yeah, hopefully it's like you said, you wake up, it happens to all of us, you wake up and your neck's kind of not right the way that it is. He's an important part of their team. We've seen this. It's so funny how often we talk about that World Series last year, but we tend to forget to mention the fact that Will Smith is actually the guy that hit the home run in the 11th inning to win Game 7 of the World Series for the Dodgers. He's done so much for this team over the years. You're going to need him to be, at or very close to his best down the stretch if you're going to try to win a World Series for the 3rd time in a row. So hopefully that's not a big deal. I agree with you. Getting Dalton Rushing in the lineup. And look, he really, to me, Harry, seems to be one of those guys that benefits from playing a few days in a row. We saw it yesterday when he got his 2nd day in a row. He had 4 hits yesterday. He had a really good day. He had another home run. He's getting better behind the plate. You're starting to see some real improvement from Dalton Rushing on both ends of his game, but it's just so hard when you don't play very often. He doesn't play very often. He got cold again, so fewer at-bats to go around. So hopefully there's a silver lining here with him. But if the Dodgers are going to be the Dodgers, Will Smith's going to have to play and have to play well.
Yeah, and there's been moments where he's been struggling and where you haven't seen America's catcher just be the dominant catcher, the dominant batter that we know he can be. So it's good to know that the backup option is a pretty good player in Dalton Rushing, who can pick up the slack and be able to deliver for this squad. Hopefully, once the lineups come up before Tuesday's opener against the Pirates, we get to see Will Smith in that lineup and be like, okay, everything's okay. But Travis, also, a lot of people just say, oh, it's travel day. They fly in a chartered flight. All the players are comfortable in it. But when you talk about traveling from Los Angeles to Pittsburgh, that's a long-ass flight. That's not an easy thing to go through. And hopefully it doesn't stiffen things up on his neck, too. I hope.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, if he's in the lineup on Tuesday, then I think he can kind of take a deep breath and feel pretty good about it. If he's not, then it's probably something to start worrying about a little bit. And, oh, by the way, you got Paul Skenes waiting for you on the other end of it. So I don't know how desperate anybody is to grab a bat when Skenes is in the lineup, but hopefully he's back, because he's in. I know we don't talk about him the way we talk about Freddie and Mookie and Ohtani and all these other guys, but Will Smith is as important as anybody else on this team, and they're going to need him.
Yeah, now let's move over to Tyler Glasnow. And this is where things become a little bit more frustrating, because when Glasnow initially went on the IL, it felt like something that might be relatively short term. That's what we were told from Dave Roberts, and that hasn't happened. Instead, there have been setbacks, there have been delays, there have been interruptions to the rehab process, and now the Dodgers have moved him to the 60-day IL. There were a couple of minor moves on the roster, but this one, in my opinion, the most important because the practical effect is simple. He's not coming back anytime soon. The earliest possible return date is now early July, and even that assumes everything starts moving in the right direction. So the biggest concern for me isn't necessarily the date. It's that he's still working through hurdles in the recovery process because you want progression, you want momentum, and that isn't happening right now.
I'm really struggling with the way to say this without sounding callous. If it were anybody but him, I would be worried. He's hurt he's hurt all the time. And I don't know, man. You just can never count on him. He's a terrific pitcher, but you just flat cannot count on him. He gets hurt every season. And when he does get hurt, he misses way more time than the initial diagnosis might suggest. Tyler Glasnow is a talented pitcher who never pitches. For me, Harry, he's one of these guys. It's just like finding that $20 bill in your jacket that you haven't worn in a year or so. It's like, oh, look, okay, cool, we got it. You can go buy a sandwich or whatever and feel like that's found money. It didn't cost me. That's Tyler Glasnow at this point. Like if he's there, oh, cool, look, he's here, great, and throw him out there and he'll pitch real well. And then he'll miss another 6 months. He's always hurt. It's always for a long time. So I'm bummed. I hope he gets better, but I don't really spend a lot of mental energy wondering when Glasnow is coming back, because the answer is probably not for a while, and when he does, he won't be here long.
No doubt about it. And then comes Blake Snell. The news is a little bit more encouraging on his end, not because a return is imminent, because it's not, but because he's already throwing again less than 3 weeks after his surgery. And that's a positive step because the Dodgers are going to be extremely careful here. And frankly, they should be. But Travis, we're already seeing Tarek Skubal a month out of surgery. Yeah. He threw 5 scoreless innings in a rehab assignment. So with Blake Snell, I don't think they're going to be as aggressive. But at least just knowing that he's throwing right now after those loose bodies 3 weeks out, that's a thumbs up.
Yeah, he's another one that is incredibly talented. We saw what he did in the postseason last year. And, when he's pitched for the Dodgers, he's been terrific. He's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. There's nothing to add to the Blake Snell story other than you wish he would pitch more. I'm with you that Skubal coming back gives you a little bit of optimism that hopefully Snell can follow a similar pattern. Snell has a longer injury history than Skubal does, so maybe it's a little bit different there. But I'm not quite in the Glasnow range with Snell like I am with Tyler Glasnow, but it just feels like this is a very familiar story. Hopefully he's back. Hopefully he's good. They're going to need him. Like if you're going to go and try to do what you did the last couple of years, you're going to need Blake Snell as a part of what it is that you're doing. And that he wants to go back out there and battle. So cross your fingers for him. That he's throwing is good news, but his time here in LA, he has really just not pitched very much. He pitched a lot in the postseason last year, but that's about it. Other than that, he really hasn't pitched at all for this team. So it's funny though, an important part of your team that soaks up a lot of money and everything else, and it feels like he's a pretty popular player among Dodger fans. He just never really plays. Like he's played like 2 months for this team in 2 years. It's a very weird dynamic.
And I feel fans say, well, look, as long as they win the World Series, we don't care if he only pitches in October. As long as he delivers in October, let this come through. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how concerned are you checking out our show about Will Smith missing back-to-back games? Drop your answer in the comments or hit us up on social at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, or on TikTok at Harry Ruiz_. Travis, he's available on X and IG at Travis Rodgers. Next on Locked On Dodgers, Jeff Passan floated a trade deadline name that could fit the Dodgers perfectly both now and in the future.
Hey, it's Mike and John from Locked On Angels. We wanted to talk to you about something that's important, and that's your family.
I've been married a few years now, and my wife and I have a 1-year-old, and we're always thinking about his future. Who's he going to become? How can we help? In what ways can we make sure his future is secure?
Yeah, I'm in a different season. I'm married. I have 3 young adult kids, and lately I've been thinking a lot about how to make sure my family's taken care of in the long term.
This is why life insurance matters, not because it solves everything, but because it helps provide financial security for the people you love the most.
And that's where Ethos comes in. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and even get same-day coverage. And there's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions online, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month.
So take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. That's ethos.com/lockedonmlb.
Get up to $3 million in coverage in as little as 10 minutes at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. Application times may vary. Rates may vary.
Are you new here? Welcome. Everydayers, you already know you're the heartbeat of our show. It's easy and free to help us out. Subscribe and like our content on YouTube. Drop a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit up the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 2793-LOCKED. That's 279-356-2533. A quick shout out to all of you that check us out during the YouTube premiere every morning here on Locked On Dodgers. All right, Jeff Passan connects the Dodgers to an intriguing bullpen arm. And look, the trade deadline is still weeks away. A lot will change, a lot of names will emerge, and a lot of rumors will disappear. But one thing that caught my attention was Jeff Passan mentioning Riley O'Brien as a potential fit for the Dodgers. And look, now, obviously the headline name in Detroit and in LA is Tarek Skubal. Every contender would love to add him. The Dodgers would love to have him in that rotation, and the Tigers know that, which means the acquisition cost would be enormous. And we've talked about Skubal plenty. You can go and check out our previous shows right now. We're going to talk about why O'Brien is the most interesting conversation right now, because he checks several boxes when it comes to the Dodgers. First, he can help out immediately. Dodgers bullpen has been excellent this season, but they're still navigating some of the injuries. Edwin Diaz remains sidelined. When he comes back, how good is he going to be? Blake Trinan, he isn't getting any younger, and you got to look into the future. So adding another late inning arm always has value. And Travis, O'Brien isn't just a short-term solution. He has more years left in his contract than just a one-year rental or a second half of the season rental.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. I think you're right. I think that some of the Dodger core relievers, Trinan is the most obvious example of this, are starting to age out. They're starting to become more specialists. Like Trinan was one of those guys that you could basically throw up there against a left-hander or a right-hander in the middle innings, the late innings. It didn't matter. You felt pretty good like he was going to go and win that particular battle. Now he's a little bit more of a low leverage option. He's really not an option against left-handed pitchers anymore. They're hitting nearly 400 off of him. So the numbers have changed, and you're going to have to change your bullpen with it. You're seeing guys like Henriquez who are getting more and more use. Dreyer's kind of stepped into that role. But Vezia and Trinan, those guys, they've been around a while now. So freshening up that portion of the team is interesting. If Riley O'Brien can come in there and fill that role, like you said, both in the short term and the long term, that's great. The interesting thing about the Dodgers is they usually, for guys like that are kind of middle of the pack guys, they'll make a deal for him, but they're never going to overpay for him because they probably believe that they have stuff in-house, whether that's in the minor leagues or elsewhere, that they can get the right situation for those guys and do it. When they make the move, it's usually for a little bit of a larger name. It's like a Skubal along the way. Now, last year it was a little different. They went with Brock Stewart. It's a pretty quiet move. It didn't really do a whole lot. He got hurt, and we didn't really see him all that much. But O'Brien is an interesting one. He's pitched really well for St. Louis this year, so we'll see how he does. But that's the part of the team that feels like it's aging more quickly. The infield is old. Don't get me wrong; it's an old infield, but it's still pretty productive. You're starting to see. Fred Freeman's having a great year. Max Muncy is a really talented guy still at this point. A lot of home runs. Mookie's big question mark at this point. We'll see what it looks like when Tommy Edman eventually comes back, but. That bullpen, the guys that they've really leaned on, Trinan is the best example, like you mentioned, are getting up there.
Yeah, and when you talk about O'Brien, you're talking about a guy that's in the Cardinals organization, which in recent years had been a team that was struggling to just even fight for a wild card spot. This season, they have a winning record, and I know it's June 8th. I know that we're just a couple of months in, but they've been playing way better baseball than in previous seasons. So how hesitant would they be to trade one of their assets when they're actually fighting for something? Because they've proven to be a good trade partner for the Dodgers in the past, including when they struck the deal for Tommy Edman and got him into the building, and he became a key piece for the Dodgers winning the World Series back in 2024. So I feel that if they wanted to make a deal, the Dodgers would be able to without having to give away the farm. I'll say this, a positive development is seeing guys like Will Klein, like Edgardo Henriquez, guys that they built, that they brought up through the organization without having to give up assets to another team, start delivering for the team. But you will never say no to any arm that could come and be a contributor ASAP, and a guy that's already built and that has a good reputation, that has been a closer, that can come in and either be a closer for you by committee. Tanner Scott has been the guy that has been tasked with it with Edwin Diaz gone, but I feel that it would be a positive addition. Obviously, from here through the trade deadline, we got a couple of weeks left, but this is the first name that popped up that I was like, hey, I didn't really have on my radar. And I think it would be a positive development for the Dodgers to bring into the building.
Yeah, I do too. And like you mentioned with the Cardinals, they're having a better year than they've had the last couple of years, but they're still a ways away from being a contender. They're in the mix to maybe make the postseason, but the odds of them, going on a run are still probably low. They're probably still looking to raise their floor to a higher level. And if you can do that with a couple of guys instead of one guy, or, you have an area of need that you don't have filled inside your own organization, and you have a surplus at other places, that's a good way to build out the roster of your team. So I don't necessarily think that them being better this year will prevent them from being sellers at the deadline. I think they probably will be, because, the Cardinals are one of those organizations that's always trying to get back to World Series contention, and they're not in the mix right now. And that can be a way to kind of kickstart that a little bit. So I don't think that would prevent them from dealing O'Brien.
It feels like for most of baseball, and especially teams in the National League, just making it right now and winning a series in the postseason feels like a victory, because they know that pretty much the Dodgers, it's them against the world. And if somebody gets to beat the Dodgers, then it's a whole celebration. It's like winning a World Series on their own, as LA tries to go for 3 consecutive World Series. And look, O'Brien isn't necessarily the biggest name. He's not the flashiest name, but someone who could help the team win now while also helping maintain bullpen stability beyond this season. So let me throw this one to you, checking out our show. Do you think the Dodgers' biggest need right now is another late inning reliever, or should they focus on adding something else? And let me know which position that would be. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We'll be back on Tuesday to preview the Dodgers visiting the Pirates, a Pirates team that, yes, they still have a winning record, and that, yes, they will be sending Paul Skenes to the mound for the first game of the series versus LA. So that's going to be a fun one, Travis.
I can't wait. Anybody that's listened to Locked On Dodgers for the last 2 years knows that I am the biggest Paul Skenes fan that there is. I can't wait to watch him pitch. I can't wait to see the Dodger hitters try to solve that particular puzzle, because that dude is from another planet. I cannot wait to see him go up against LA.
If you're with us every day, check out the Everydayer Club. You'll get Locked On Dodgers completely ad-free, access to our members-only Discord, and more perks along the way. Join the party at LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com. If you're watching on YouTube, stick around and check out the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And if you're listening on audio, make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. Travis and I appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.